Good morning, everyone. This special event is brought to you by Rug Cooking Magazine. I'm Nicola Pryba. I'm sitting in for Deborah Smith today, who's here. She can wave. She has laryngitis, so she can't speak today. Here at Rug Cooking Magazine, we are in touch with textile artists and rug hookers around the world to create 5 issues of woolly beauty each year for you. We work with rug cooking authors, writers, and teachers like Kathleen Eckhaus to produce quality books. If you love rug cooking, you will love what we have to offer. We've been published since 1989, bringing you all the best from the world of rug cooking. We have a free newsletter called Rug Beat, 5 colorful print issues of Rug Cooking Magazine each year, and a book club, where we publish and present to you 4 rug cooking books from top-notch rug cooking artists and teachers. Be sure to check out everything we have to offer. First, let's address a few housekeeping details. If you get disconnected today, you can reconnect using the same link. You will not interrupt the talk at all. We are recording today's webinar, so if you have technical issues or you have to leave, don't worry, we'll send you a link and you can watch it later. And it will be posted on the Rug Cooking Magazine website and Facebook very soon. We've also enabled the Q&A feature for this event, so if you have a question, you can type them in and I'll ask Kathleen to answer as many as we have time for. If you would like to order this book, visit the Rug Cooking Magazine website. We'll give you a link a little bit later. In fact, we'll send you all the links later because then you'll have them and you can just click on them when you need to. All right, let's get started. So welcome to Hooked on Handwork Live. So it's time to give you a sneak peek into the new book. This is a book all about inspiration. Hooked on Handwork, Design a Rug Inspired by Fibers, Textiles, and Handcrafts is the name of the book, and it explains what it is all about. We'll show you a few of the pages so you get a flavor of the book. For our first example, take a look at the rug on the right, hooked by a Norwegian textile artist. Now look at the heirloom sweater on the left. This is a sweet story about how this garment that he knit for himself and was also worn by his daughter inspired him to hook a memory rug. Here we have an example of knitting to hooking. We all probably have precious garments from our family, and would any of them spark an idea for a rug or a hooked mat? Another very popular textile art is quilting. I imagine many of you have pieced a quilt in your lifetime. A bunch of us have even hooked a rug inspired by a quilt. It seems like a natural thing to do. Quilting to hooking. Think of the possibilities just in the sunlight and shadows or log cabin genre of quilts. Lights and darks, values and color, music to a rag hooker's ears. Can a mat be inspired by an embroidered tea cozy? Why not? Chris Miller tapped into her Finnish ancestry and lovely decorative tea cozy, reflecting the needlework styles of Finland. The mat on the right is a new family keepsake. Samplers are a pretty special branch of embroidery. Here, Kathleen shows examples from our favorite lettering guru, Ellen Banker, herself the author of Hooked on Words. Be sure to take a look at Ellen's book too, if you have not seen it yet. Ellen shows us her distinctive way to be inspired by these small embroidered pieces, and she shows us the potential for making sampler rugs. Her hook samplers are quite exquisite. Another example of what you will find in Hooked on Handwork is this beautiful hooked rug inspired by the artist's ancestors' cultural heritage. Polish folk art is distinctive in the colors and the motifs. This rug is a perfect rethinking of those motifs and colors, a bit of the ancestors rendered into a rug. Handwork is more than just needlework, and handwork of any kind can be the nugget, the spark for a hooked rug. On the left, the towers and art of the Middle East was the impetus for this rug hooker to hook her architecturally inspired piece. On the right, you'll see a geometric stained glass window that led to a geometric mat for a bench cover. The wool even glows a bit, just like a window does. We're pleased to be able to talk to Kathleen Eckhaus this morning. She lives in Pennsylvania and is a member of the Magdalena Rug Hookers of Perry County. She has become one of the best known rug hooking teachers in the area and often partners to teach rug hooking with the local arts council. As Kathleen is talking, if you have a question, type it in the Q&A feature and we'll get her to answer them as we have time. So good morning, Kathleen.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to speak with you today about your new book. So congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. So why don't we start by having you tell us a little bit about why you wanted to write this book?
Well, I teach just beginners, and most of them, when they leave the classes, they are very comfortable hooking a rug, but they all say, well, I'm going to buy a kit for my next one. I also teach music, and it's the same situation with music because people think that they can't sing and people think that they can't draw. In my music classes, I say, if you can talk, you can sing. And in my rug hooking, I say, if you can write your name, you can draw. There's all kinds of singing and there's all kinds of drawing. And I am not a Pavarotti, and I am not anybody who could hook a rug that looks like a photograph, but I'm good enough. And I think everybody is. And that's what I want to inspire.
I love that. Yeah, so just kind of spinning off of that, how did you get into rug hooking?
Well, I grew up in a family with a lot of art. So fiber artists and photographers and musicians. And I just loved learning new things. But nobody in my family ever did rug hooking. And when I saw my first hooked rug, I wanted to learn how to do that. So I took a class and it was kind of a disaster because my first piece was, well, I threw it away. It was pretty bad, but I didn't give up because I really, really, really wanted to learn. So I took another class. And at that point, I figured it all out. My teacher gave me what I needed to learn. And so ever since then, and I don't even know how many years ago, it was a long time, but I've been doing rug hooking. In the beginning, it was just little small pieces, little wall hangings. But eventually, when somebody that I know became the editor of Rug Hooking magazine, I actually made a rug.
Yeah, awesome. So, you mentioned your family did a lot of other crafts. What other crafts did they do?
Well, my grandmother taught me to knit and crochet. My mother was an herbalist, and she had a huge herb garden, and she also did wheat weaving and cake decorating. She made my wedding cake. So I did learn cake decorating from my mother, but I decided that was not something I ever wanted to do. Thank you very much. But I did keep up with the wheat weaving and the crocheting and the knitting, not as much. None of them were weavers, and that was something I always wanted to learn. So I did get a loom.
Nice. Yeah, it kind of all goes hand in hand with all the
Yes,
fiber.
It's
yes,
nice.
Yeah. So you were a primitive wide cut hooker. So tell us about this, and why did you choose wide cuts as like your main focus?
Well, it's kind of what I'm drawn to. I live in a log house. You can see a little bit in the background, and I just like rustic. I like rustic things. Brown is my favorite color, so I kind of like earthy things. But that doesn't mean that I don't love the fine cut rugs that look like photographs. I love them, but I definitely don't have the patience to do them. In all my crafty days and all my embroidery, I also do embroidery, but I never did counted cross stitch because it's just too fine and too tedious. I just don't have the patience for those kinds of things.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how, what colors you like kind of and what size, you like to work with will kind of guide what you end up hooking. Let's see. You have a few rugs with you. Do you want to show some of those real quick and
sure,
chat about those?
So, well, this is let me see. Can you see it? Yeah, this is an embroidered dress or scarf, and look how simple that design is. So easy. And I thought, wow, this would be a good example of how you could design a rug to match a dress or scarf. And so a certain artist did this. Let's see, where do I get it up? So she didn't copy it exactly, but you can see obviously that they match. Let me see if I can get them both up there. Yeah, so the design kind of matches. And so they really look great together. So I thought, well, if you are at the point like you can't think, oh, what should I do next? Well, maybe look around your house and find something that you already have that you'd like to make a set. Then you can make something to match.
Yeah, I love that. It's kind of almost a way of preserving the original piece in a new a new
Exactly.
light and you can make it match. So like kind of pulls together a room. I was just thinking like, I definitely have some of those like handkerchiefs that are embroidered by like my
Right.
great grandma, you know, that kind of thing. And I don't necessarily want to put those out just randomly, but if I had something that matched it or it was a spring theme or something like that, I could see it working really well.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think it could go generation from generation. You know, the next generation might do something else with this particular design and have 3 pieces that go together.
That would be really cool.
Yeah. So the next piece is inspired. Oh, I think I have that upside down. Inspired by just a piece of fabric. A piece of fabric. And I'm always telling people, just look at fabric. Now let's see. Here we go. All right, there you go. So
Oh, wow. Yeah.
she didn't do it exactly, okay? But you can obviously tell that those 2 things are inspired. Now, if she had used this for a tablecloth, perhaps, you know, she could have made this for on the table, or maybe you could make a rug to match your tablecloth. I think it's, and
Yeah.
you know, I have trouble drawing simple things. I tend to draw, like in the book, I put a picture of a chipmunk that I hooked. Well, I kind of have trouble making it so it doesn't look real. And this helps me. If I'm looking at someone else's drawing, I can make something that's, you know, more artistic and more not reality. And so that's why I suggest that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I could definitely see that rug being in like it's like a vignette where you could have like a vase of flowers that match and then little teacups or something, and then it could match your table. It's really nice.
Yeah, and here's another one of those. So this is somebody that I know, and she does filet crochet, and I absolutely love filet crochet. So I asked her to do a rug that would look like filet crochet. Lo and behold, she took this and created this rug.
Oh, wow. That's so pretty.
It's so, and boy, oh boy, I mean, she has the runner on the table and this on the floor. Oh, it's pretty stunning. And of course, since she crocheted the edging. You don't have to do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
nice tie-in.
I love how she did this.
Filet crochet is so cool because it lets you have that kind of graphic element without having to do color work.
Exactly.
It's very nice to see.
Well, that's a good point. And this, of course, was white on white. And so for this rug, she just chose the 2 colors, and that embodies the filet crochet. So
yeah,
I love that.
That's awesome. I like the crochet edging. It definitely ties it together.
Exactly.
And a good excuse for people to learn to crochet if they haven't.
And there are some I'm not a great crocheter, but there are some beginning stitches that you can make some really, really pretty edges on a rug. And so once you learn that one stitch, you just have to keep going around the rug. You don't have to really know it. So the final thing that I have is our cover girl. So somebody in our community, well, actually, she took my rug hooking class, and she then started coming to our rug hooking meetings. And we don't limit our rug hooking meetings to just rug hooking. You can bring anything you want to brag about. She brought this. And we're like, oh my goodness, we all have to learn how to crochet. Look at this.
It's stunning.
When I decided to write the book, I'm like, I have to get Julia to hook something based on this. And she did. And so she is our cover girl, because look at that. And also, so you cannot create it exactly. Whoops, this is just an inspiration. You know, you can't make it look exactly like that crochet design, but she used that as the basis. And then she totally changed the colorways. And in the book, I talk about take pictures of things in black and white, so you're not biased by the colors. And she definitely did not match those colors. It's not supposed to be a matching piece. It's just a little mat inspired by her beautiful crochet piece.
Awesome. I love how that almost looks like stained glass, kind of like the other pieces.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly. She's got, I don't know if you can see it. She's got, it's hard to see. She's got some sparkle in there too.
Oh, fun. Yeah, it's a cool way to highlight. So is that one hooked with yarn or wool?
Everything I showed you today is hooked with wool. Okay. We have some pieces, at least one done with wool. I can't think how many, but for sure we have at least one. Well, that's a punch needle rug hooking
Okay, yeah.
in the book. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I feel like someone, if they wanted a punch needle, a version of like an Afghan, you could almost use the exact same yarn and really make it match if you really wanted to.
Oh, true. Absolutely.
That would be cool.
True. Absolutely.
So many possibilities. So fun.
Good idea.
Yeah. So what are you working on these days?
I saw that question. I'm going to answer. Honestly, I'm weaving.
Oh, fun.
I'm weaving rugs, but there is one in particular that as I was weaving and I thought, oh, this could make a hooked rug as well. So yes, I do many things, and I'm one of those people that likes to have a lot of projects going at the same time. So I have a rug on the frame. It's for my son, but it's not inspired by anything except that he likes fly fishing. So that's what I'm doing. Fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely something where you work on something else that inspires your other craft and vice versa, I'm sure. So
yep.
Cool. And you mentioned that, your favorite color is brown, but you obviously have a lot of like colorful pieces that you like as well. So where do you get your inspiration in, just day-to-day life?
Well, I'm one of those people that, I look at everything and everything's an inspiration, and then I can't stop myself. And and what I learned though, is that people are different and not everybody looks at the world that way. And I think that's another reason for writing the book, because, other people don't walk past a wallpaper and think, oh, I could hook that. Whereas once I learned rug hooking, like everything to me inspires a rug, a hooked rug. And so my problem is just cutting it down. But yeah, but I love it. I love that you can do this. And I do, like I said, I do a lot of crafts and fiber arts and things like that. But rug hooking is the most forgiving, most forgiving, because if you make a mistake, you just pull out those loops. And I show in the book how, other people, they have it all figured out, but I don't. I just fly by the seat of my pants. And so if I'm in the middle of it, I'm like, that bird has to be bigger or whatever, then I just change it. I get another color marker and I just change it. Other people have to have it all done ahead of time, and that's fine. But we're all different. And those who don't look at the world all the time and see these ideas, that's why the book, I think even people who are prolific rug hookers, we all hit doldrum days where we can't think of a darn thing to do. And so I'm hoping that, they can pick up the book and leaf through it and like, oh yeah, why don't I go look at that and see if that would work,
Yeah, I think it's very important for people to just, change their thinking a little bit and try something new, even if they, like you said, even if you're a prolific rug hooker and you do the fine cuts, try a white cut rug sometime and see, walk around in a Target or a TJ Maxx and look at the popular patterns of wallpaper and just even color palettes. I feel like that's what your book kind of tells people to do. It's just kind of like look at the world a little differently. And I think that's really cool. I think that's nice.
And I'm in on that because I said brown is my favorite color. And in the book, I was in Africa, and the fabrics in Africa, the colors, the fabrics in Africa, but I came home with a brown fabric. So I need to work on that. I really do need to work on that. And I think I can do that by going around and looking at things,
Yeah, I think everyone can. That's cool. And I feel like that's with a lot of different artists, even trying a new craft. Like you said, you go back and forth between weaving and hooking and maybe a little crochet here and there. And I think that's really nice to be able to take a break and try something new.
Yep.
Cool. All right. So we could take a minute to actually, if you wanted, we could answer a couple questions, or we could keep going.
Okay.
Up to you.
We can try.
Okay, let's see.
We can try.
Pull up the Q&A. Someone is asking, can you tell us what backings you recommend to use?
I recommend whatever you prefer, because I use the primitive linen backing, and this particular student, so when I have them purchase kits, and I make sure they all purchase kits, number 8 cut and primitive linen for starting. And she absolutely loves monk's cloth. So my recommendation is to try them all and see what works best for you. But yeah, myself personally, I use the primitive linen, unbleached linen.
Gotcha. Let's see, anything else we can answer quickly? Someone asked if these are made with wool, and I believe we said yes. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Oh, you know what? There is one rug from Finland, I think, and she made it out of, well, it was hard for her to describe it to me, but it sounds like t-shirt material. So her rug is made out of t-shirt material.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the one with the Malamutes on it. So look for that.
Just looking to see if there's any other questions coming through. You mentioned you were in Africa. So was that like for a vacation, or was it just for inspiration?
Somebody once asked me, what's your favorite vacation? I'm like, oh, I don't think I take vacations. I just like to travel. I like to go and see things and meet people. And of course, everywhere I go, I end up buying something. Like, oh, you can't see it, but here's something, some lace from Spain. I've run out of places in my house for some of this stuff, but no, Africa was just because it's just such a beautiful place. And you know, the fabric, the colors. Oh, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Someone's asking if you can use hand spun yarn.
I believe so. Oh, yes, you can. I tried a project with hand spun yarn, and for me, it was challenging because it kept wanting to twist and do its own thing. But definitely, and people do it all the time. Hand spun and hand dyed yarn you can use. Yeah. You'd have to consult somebody about the backing. You may need a finer backing. Maybe a monk's cloth would be good for that. Deborah, would that be correct? Can you nod your head? Are you on screen?
Yeah. Yeah, she's nodding her head.
Okay.
Yeah, we're agreement. Yeah.
Okay.
Have you ever seen pieces done on, I might say this wrong, Varel? For real?
No, I don't know
what that is.
I don't either. Deb, do you? Yeah. Maybe she can type you.
Yeah, why don't you chat, Deb, if you can, and we'll answer that question that way. All right, someone is asking, would this be spun wool as in yarn or strips of wool that have been cut, or do you use both to create textures?
Good question. The answer is yes. I primarily use strips of wool, but many people use a mixture of wool yarn, which is twisted, but you can also use roving. It just depends on what the effect you want. I've seen rugs where the clouds were hooked with roving and, you know, very, very fluffy. But when I say wool, I'm talking about wool strips of fabric.
Cool. Yeah. All right. What other antiques inspire your designs?
Probably everything I own. And I love the antique rugs as well. In the book I mentioned, we live in the area where Magdalena Briner Eby lived, and I don't know if some of you should be familiar with her and her work, and that is really very, very, very primitive. So she was surrounded by primitive, what we call antiques now, or the modern day things for her. So yeah, I just think you can just look around and you can make a rug based on anything.
That's fun. I don't know why the first thing that popped in my mind was like a ball jar and like kind of capturing like the vintage,
Yes.
blues. And
Yes.
I think I've seen a rug that's a ball jar before, but I think I really like those blue ball jars. So I feel like that's what came to
Absolutely.
mind.
Yeah, you could just hook them on a shelf, like a
Yeah.
picture of them on the shelf. And when you see those things, it just brings back memories. It, depends on how old you are. For some, it's your mother. For some, it's your grandmother. For some, it's great grandmother. But
Mhm.
that they use those things.
Yeah. Someone is asking, what is your favorite rug hook to use? Which I'm sure has to do with the cuts you're
Mm,
using all the time.
yeah. I prefer a pencil hook. And so when I teach classes, I usually just purchase them a beginner hook, and they kind of hold it like this. But then I pass around other hooks for them to try, because my recommendation is don't buy a hook until you've tried it. What works for me won't work for you. Like I said, Julia likes mom's cloth. So you need to try things. And same goes for buying a frame. Don't buy a frame until you've tried it. I did that one time. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to try it. It has to be what works for you.
And that's probably the same thing with I default to crochet because I crochet every now and then. And
Okay.
people have different crochet hook preferences.
Right.
And
Right.
sometimes the very basic ones work, and sometimes people need the ergonomic or the very, thick handled ones or whatever. So whatever works best.
Right.
Let's see. Someone's asking you to tell us about using materials other than new wool to hook with, kind of like a recycling
Oh yeah, yeah,
movement.
yeah. Oh, definitely. Well, my original, when I started row cooking, I only used repurposed wool,
Nice.
because that's another thing I believe very strongly in, the environment and doing that. And so, boy, this was a perfect thing for me until I went to my first hook in. And there were all these vendors with all these beautiful wools. And so I have a problem. I have repurposed wool and new wool, because boy, some of the colors, you just can't get them in stuff you go to the Goodwill to get.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's probably good to have a mix of both. Helps the new, wool
Yeah.
companies stay
Yeah.
afloat too.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Do you have a favorite rug hooker who you follow?
Aha. Well, I have, what? I never counted how many contributors there are to the book. I should have. But they're my favorite rug hookers all over the world. I had people from Japan and Scotland and everywhere. And some of them I don't know, I've never met. And that's something else I say about this book. It's very heartwarming, because I found, well, the one that did the Malamutes on her rug, I just saw something she did on one of the Facebook rug hooking groups that I belong to. And I messaged her and asked her if she would do this. Well, she doesn't know me from anybody. I've never met her, but she said yes. And then she went to a museum and found a rug that would illustrate what she was trying to tell me about, because I didn't understand. Sometimes there were language barriers for sure in doing this. But I love all of these people that contributed to the book, and those that I don't know. My intention is to go visit them. I really want to meet them all. Yeah.
That'd be a really fun follow-up to,
Yeah.
the book,
Yeah.
is being able to say,
Yeah.
hey, like I met this person now and got to really get to
Yeah.
know her or him. It's really interesting because I feel like that's something that a lot of us as fiber artists know, is that it creates this community across the globe. And I think it's really, really special and unique that you
Yep.
get to pull
Yep.
inspiration from people all over. Even if you don't know them personally, we can all feel connected that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool,
And
heartwarming.
some of the countries where I got contributors, rug hooking is not part of their culture. The man from Finland learned it in, I forget, New England somewhere. I don't know where he was, but he saw somebody rug hooking and he wanted to learn, and they gave him a 15-minute lesson, and that was his lesson. And the women from Japan are doing just incredible things. Rug hooking is not a Japanese craft, but what they're doing is taking their art and interpreting it into hook things. And oh my goodness, you know how so many of the Japanese arts are very fine and dainty, and that's the way their rugs are. They're just beautiful. So there's a whole rug hooking studio in Tokyo, at least one, maybe more. And that's all been inspired by someone who came here and learned rug hooking. And now, yeah, like you said, we're all a community, you know, and I know they've entered in celebrations and been part of celebrations, and you know, it's new to them and they're loving it.
That's awesome. And again, like some of that wouldn't be possible without like modern, you know, technology, and some of that is really fun to see that someone could have a new artistic passion based on, you know, another person's culture and just different traditions and things like that. I've seen some Japanese artwork at the Art Institute in Chicago, and I'm always impressed at, you know, their finite detail and talent. I mean, it's wonderful.
Well, and that's what you can take each culture and take what's your culture, but then you can interpret it into another art form. And and I love that.
All right, I think we're doing okay on time, so we're just going to keep answering questions. That's all right.
Okay.
I think someone will stop me, I think, if we're running out of time. Let's see. Someone said, tell us more about your first rug, the one you threw away.
All right. Well, so the teacher said, don't pull a loop in every single square. And I just couldn't do that. I just like, what? I'm going to leave those holes empty. So I hooked one in every square, but not. And so it was like, like it was like hard, it didn't bend or anything. And actually when teaching, that's sometimes hard to convince people. Don't put one in every one, because that is the tendency. You see another hole and you pull up a loop. The other thing was, I mean, it was a kit and it was nothing that I would have ever chosen. And so that's something I learned as a teacher. I give them a website and say, here are the parameters, but pick what you want. Pick something you want to do. And then I always bring extra wool, because I don't want them to be limited to what's in the kit. And oftentimes they go wild and way off of the chart as far as what the original artist had planned, but that makes it their own. And I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So it's interesting that your first rug was, a learning experience, which I think everyone's is.
Yeah. So. And I'm glad I didn't give up, because I was very disappointed, but I'm glad I didn't give up. So yeah. But in class, I try not ever to, but sometimes we have to, okay, you need to pull that out and do that over again. Just that little part.
Yeah. Always open to learning. So that's cool. Someone asked if you dye your own wool.
Nope. I don't spin my own yarn. I don't. So years ago, I grew up, my grandfather raised sheep. And so I was going to raise sheep, spin the wool, do the whole thing, and then weave. And I finally decided, nope, I don't do that. I'm not going to, I just have too many projects. I'm not going to dye. I make soap too. I can't do everything. So no, I do not dye at all. I know how, and I've done it. As I've done spinning, I learned to spin. And I know all about shearing sheep, but no. So I don't.
That's fun that you were able to learn about it enough to know what you want to do and what you don't want to do anymore. So,
and I appreciate the people who do the dyeing. And we have a local shop where she dyes wool for us, and I can actually ask her for something in particular if I need it. So that's what I do. I support a local business, and I eliminate the work for me.
That's the way to go. Sometimes it's just easier. Someone's asking, do you document your own rugs?
You mean put a label on them? Yes, you should. So. Everyone should. Everyone should put a label on them. And one reason that we know this is because of Magdalena Briner-Eby's rugs. Sometimes there's a rug out there that they think maybe it could have been hers, but maybe it could have been a neighbor who saw what she did and just kind of, emulated that, kind of tried to make something similar. So we want you to put some kind of a label on the back if you can, because someday who knows where that rug is going to get to. And it'd be nice if they could know when it was made and who made it. And someday if you're famous, you'll really want to do that, because your descendants are going to make lots of money. Magdalena Breiner's Eby's rugs go for tens of thousands of dollars. So
you just never know.
Yeah. And Tracy Granger, who has some rugs in my book, she said, your first rug will be your most valuable rug, because think about that. Artists, when you see how they've gone, and then somebody finds some drawing from way back, look at this is an original so-and-so, and it maybe isn't great, but it's an original so-and-so.
Yeah. Well, then you threw out your rug. What are we going to do, Kathleen?
Nobody would have wanted that.
I think we'll answer a couple more questions, and then if we don't get to the rest of them, we can always answer via email, or you can comment on we'll post this video on Facebook, and you can write questions there, and we'll try to answer them there too. That'll be like in a day or so, I think. So last couple questions. Does the crochet edge stand up for a floor rug? Meaning, like, will it last?
Yes. As long as you use a nice quality wool yarn for crocheting, it'll last as well as the other binding that you use. For sure.
Yeah, good. Someone's asking again, just about edging. How do you finish your rugs? I see some of your examples have crocheted edges. Have you ever done anything like that? Do you recommend it?
I haven't, but I love it, and I would definitely. Yeah, definitely. I just haven't. So it has to be the right rug. I think my rugs are a little too whimsical and folksy. I don't think it goes. But when you have, something beautiful, like dainty, like this, it really, really matches. Yeah. It goes with, and then that other rug, which I don't know where I put it, but the one that was, because it's a dresser scarf with a crocheted edge. I mean, that really, really worked well.
Yeah, it almost speaks to the type of rug.
But I definitely would do it. It's easy to do. If it's really easy to do. And like I said, actually, you don't even have to learn. You just have to go on YouTube and say, I want to do a single crochet, or I want to do a picot edge, or whatever. You find it on YouTube, and you can do it, because you can stop the video and look at it again until you got it. And especially if you're just going around, you're doing the same stitch the whole way around. So you're going to get it. Yeah.
All right. I think let's do last question. Tell us about how you draw out shapes or a motif, and then do you trace them on the linen?
My favorite way is to draw on paper and then cut it out and trace around it, because then I can move it around and see where I want it and all that. But I also have a light box. I've used a light box to, that shines light behind the pattern, and then you can draw it on the linen. But the thing about cutting out the pieces for me is that I can, where do I want it? How do I want it? And so there's some of that in the book about how I do it, but everybody does things differently. For sure. So
again, kind of like, which hook is your favorite, which method do you like the best? It's just kind of a trial and error kind of thing.
Explore them all and then find out what works best for you.
Yeah. All right, everyone. So we're running out of time. Thank you, Kathleen, for sharing your time with us. It's always fascinating to talk with another rug hooker and rug hooking teacher to understand even more about our favorite handcraft. We're going to go back to the slideshow. All right. So, but before we let Kathleen go, I understand that Kathleen has a parting gift for us. As she mentioned in the beginning, she is also a music teacher, and as such, she sees the world in song. So what's a musical rug hooker to do but rewrite the lyrics of a favorite song? If you like, sing along with her. We can have a chorus of rug hookers around the world singing. And also everyone is muted, so you can sing, but we won't hear you except for Kathleen.
And I'm not muted, right?
You're not muted, but I'm going to mute, so you have the floor.
And can you put me back up so I can see myself? Because I gotta see what I'm doing here. Okay, so I wrote a song for you guys based on my favorite things from The Sound of Music. So please, please, please sing with me. Sing at the top of your lungs. I'm not a great singer, but I'm good enough, and you are too. Are we ready? Wait till I think of it. Do 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 do. Taping the linen, designing a pattern, pulling up loops and fondling the fabric. Find hooks and coarse hooks and hooks in between. These are a few of my favorite things. Do 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 do. Gathering with others to talk and keep hooking. Projects leave no time for cleaning or cooking. Big rugs and mug rugs and rugs in a frame. Hooking is hooking no matter the name. I breathe wool dust, I get rug rash. I have too much wool. But when I get near it, I can't stop myself. I only want more. Bye, everybody. I'm not a great singer. I'm not a great rug hooker, but I'm good enough, and so are you. Bye.
You were wonderful. Thank you so much. We'll be definitely humming that song the rest of the day. So thank you for chatting with us and singing. All righty. Got one more little slide for you. Be sure to sign up for Rug Hooking Magazine Book Club. You will receive your books first before they are on any other bookstore shelves. You'll also receive a book club newsletter giving you sneak peeks at the upcoming books and featuring books from the past. If you're not a member of the book club yet, you can join online at rughookingmagazine.com/new book. We have some great books coming up, so please join us. We also have a special today, two of our books that will be favorites for beginners and intermediate rug hookers alike. Use the code you see on the screen for the special offer. It's in the chat as well for everyone. And we have a special deal for the magazine today. Here's an introductory offer for new subscribers. Get yourself a subscription to Rug Hooking Magazine for $19.95 for 5 issues, available to new subscribers watching today. Use the code you see on the screen, the webinar deal code. A few notes before we end today. This is our 8th webinar. As a response to the pandemic, we at Rug Hooking Magazine started this webinar series so that we could visit with you and send you wonderful rug hooking information. They proved popular, so we are continuing to make them as each book comes out. Click on our webinars for some fun and meet other interesting rug hooking personalities. Our webinar in August featured several of the Celebration 31 winners, interviewed by Jean Shepard. That event is a great way to capture a behind-the-scenes glimpse of the Celebration artists and their work. We've had webinars with Molly Colgrove, Donna Herkman, 2 other Rug Hooking Magazine authors. Be sure to check out what they had to say. So again, all of those are available on our website. You can watch them at your leisure. And again, remember to look for an email soon with a link to today's webinar, so you can also watch that one after it's been posted online. That email will include the links to the deals that we have talked about today as well. Thanks so much to Kathleen for taking time out of her busy life to talk to us about her new book. We love that we can visit with all of our favorite rug hooking artists in their creative spaces and talk to them in person and to learn about their favorite things. And finally, a great big thank you to all of you for coming to our online events. We appreciate your interest and participation, and we look forward to seeing you again at the next webinar. And Deb will give a little wave. Hopefully she'll have her voice sometime soon. Until then, stay safe and healthy, everyone, and keep on hooking.